Like a lot of modern fans of anime nowadays, I have difficulty deciding what to watch. I have a huge backlog that keeps getting fatter with every season. I stare into the abyss that modern anime has become, and that abyss is no longer content to just stare back. Every 3 months it seems to spit out a new, untold horror directly into my lap. Like MILF Isekai and whatever the hell this is, and the most horrific of all, slice of life anime. And so at the moment, because I don't have a mommy dom GF with big milkers who can take control of every aspect of my waking life and tell the McDonald's employee that I ordered no pickles, I'm going to attempt to do what any other degenerate weeb would do and leave it in the soft tender hands of the gods of gacha. And by that I mean, I'm going to pick a show to watch at random, but that didn't sound as interesting. So originally I was going to build my own app for this video to flex my subpar programming skills, but alright, let's see if we can get it working this time. Hopefully it doesn't crash. Oh shit! Oh! I couldn't get it working, so I'm going to use this website instead. I'll pop a link in the description box to this website if you want to share in my misery. I'm hoping to pull a super rare diamond in the rough anime that nobody's watched before, that is not an isekai, but hoping for this pull not to be an isekai is like playing Russian roulette with 5 bullets in 6 chambers. So let's see if we can find the needle in this anime haystack, hopefully unused. I have no idea what this is, and it looks like an isekai. Sheesh! Look at that average score! With the way people score things nowadays, if it's less than a 7, then it's basically the Hitler of anime. So, this is a terrific sign. Also, the fact that this came out in 2018 and I haven't heard about it, either means I'm successful and I found a diamond in the rough, or it's a big stinky stinker. Nah, come on George, first video on your channel. Positive thoughts only. Come on, positive thoughts. Diamond in the rough. Terrific anime. Positive thoughts. I'm going to check the anime list, and my positive thoughts will manifest this into a terrific anime. Oh, okay. In the popular MMORPG world, this is an isekai, isn't it? Positive thoughts, they're a good isekai. In the popular MMORPG world, Union there existed a legendary party. Its name was Subaru. This party made up of a group of childhood friends and elementary schoolers. Exceeded the limits of the game with their various senses. I have no idea what that means, but what I hope is that they each only have one sense. Like only one of them can hear, and only one of them can taste, and only one of them can smell. And with their powers combined they can, I don't know, have a nice meal. Anyway, due to an incident that resulted in a death, Union ended its service and the group of childhood friends went their separate ways. 6 years later, high schooler Haruto logged into the new reunion and reunited with a single girl. I wish I could reunite with a single girl. Asahi, one of old party members, and his childhood friend who should have died 6 years ago. Is she a digital ghost?
This is our evidence. Our ghost adventures.
This looks like it's going to be a pretty bare bones isekai, and like most isekai, it's based on a light novel, which I will not be reading. I actually don't know how to read anything but subtitles.
Get this shit off me! Ah!
So from looking at this, I'm hoping for Scooby-Doo meets Sword Art Online. We're going into this with a positive mind, positive vibes, and positive dreams. Thank you and God bless. I will never dream again. I said this looked like a bare bones isekai, and it turns out I must be a prophet, because this show is the barest of bones. Dry bones level of bare bones. Before we continue, spoilers from here on out. If you don't want to get spoiled, skedaddle. Get out of here. Come on, get. So in 7 Senses of the Reunion, we follow a pretty generic protagonist who looks like the love child of Kirito from Sword Art Online and Kazuma from Konosuba, without any of the positives or fun negative traits of either of those characters. Our boy Haruto hangs out in the MMORPG Union with his fellow 12-year-old elementary school friends, and we get introduced to them while they fight the jankiest CGI dragon, intercut with a random conversation with people who we don't know talking about how cool our protagonists are. This dragon still looks better than Berserk 2016.
King Ghidorah, take me to your leader.
And here's some terrible advice from a loser with bad opinions, but don't open your show with a terrible CGI fight, and not just a terrible CGI fight, but the worst CGI fight in the entire show.
My only regret is that I have bonitis.
Like, the CGI in the show doesn't look awful. It actually is used pretty well sometimes. But heed the phrase, put your best foot forward. What you've done here is put your worst foot forward directly into a bear trap. If you go to a fancy restaurant and your appetizer ends up being a frothing bowl of piss soup, it doesn't exactly whet your appetite. Now, these MMORPG shows usually have some sort of gimmick to go along with them. Like with Sword Art Online, it's if you die in the game, you die in real life. You know, some sort of concept that can sit in the back of the mind of the viewer while they watch and provides consequences or tension to the action scenes in the show. So the viewer isn't just constantly asking, why do I give a shit if they die in the game, if it's just a game? And boy, does this show sure have a doozy of a concept. If you die in the game, you can't play the game anymore. Ooh.
Get the water, nigga! It's going down! Ah, the motherfucking bootleg fireworks shit!
It's just hardcore Iron Man on RuneScape, except they IP ban you too. This deflates any tension in any of the action scenes from the entire show. Something else that deflates tension from a lot of the action scenes is how poorly defined the abilities of the characters are. Everyone supposedly has an ability that's unique to them, named senses, but even if they're described in the show and you see them in action, it still is very hard to understand what they do. Even after looking up what those abilities do on the wiki, I still don't understand what most of them do. So Haruto senses that he has Fighting Spirit, which gives the ability to manipulate the aura inside them and to be used to attack and survive, which I assume is going for a self-buff kind of vibe, but he mostly uses it to manifest his persona. Satsuki, the token big booby character that for some reason is infatuated with the protagonist, she has the sense of sorcery, which the wiki describes as allowing the user to bind spirits so that the user can use magic. But basically she just shoots different flavours of beam. Next up's Takanori, who wears glasses, so you know he's a serious dude. He has the sense of natural laws. I mean, we get it, bro. You attended Philosophy 101. So anyway, natural laws allows the user to manipulate the rules of the world and make the user able to do anything based on the analysis to make physical changes to something. What? I'm reading this from the wiki, the authoritative source on this stuff, and I still don't understand what any of this means. Anyway, he punches things, and the punches be colourful. Nozomi has the dream boundary sense, which means she can summon teddy bears. That's all I have to say. Next up's my boy Clive. Whoop whoop! He has the sense of transformation, which the wiki describes as the user can change nature and objects. He uses this to create and throw knives. And to confuse my lines.
Oh shit, damn, you looking real cute. Oh shit. I'm killing myself.
Lastly, we have Asahi, who I saved for last because the entire plot orbits around one of her senses. She actually has 3 senses as far as I can tell. The first one is heart play, which allows the user to affect one's feelings and thoughts. In this scene in particular, she's definitely affecting one of my thoughts and feelings. Her second sense is prophet arts, which lets her see the future. I'm not entirely sure the logistics of that in an MMORPG, but mostly she just glows orange. And her last sense is the most powerful of all. She has a fucking gun. Now, having gone through those, I hope you'll agree that these are pretty confusing. Like, when the wiki is using phrases like, can do anything, to describe one of the powers, something's gone wrong. If you don't lay out the clear foundations of the tools available to your main characters, your action scenes just get completely deflated. If you clearly define the boundaries on the tools available to your characters, then this opens up opportunities for these abilities to be utilised in interesting ways to address the situation at hand, instead of just conjuring random bullshit from nowhere to solve every problem. It also makes it quite difficult to justify why your characters are struggling or losing an encounter, when at any moment they can pull out the 5 herbs and spices of Kentucky Fried bullshit. A good example of how you can do this right is the Naruto and Sasuke versus Zabuza fight, versus versus Yabba Zabba Doo. Before this fight, they've clearly established what tools are available to both Naruto and Sasuke, and when they struggle against
Suzu,
we're right alongside them because we know the limits that these tools have, and when they use these tools in an interesting way to actually defeat
Suzu.
it ends up being really satisfying for the viewer because it feels fair. Also, please don't take this as a recommendation to go watch all of Naruto. I do not condone that action. Go watch the fights on YouTube or read the manga. If you actually go ahead and watch all of the Naruto anime now, and then regret it, come back and leave a comment on this video so I can laugh at you. Anyway, compare that fight to one from this show. Satsuki has difficulty in this fight, so she summons her never mentioned before multicolored bird Pokemon, and the main character says, "Wow, look at those super strong birdies," and then they win. There's no setup and payoff here, it's just payoff. And it's pretty unsatisfying payoff too, at least to me. So how do they get these senses? Where did they come from? I hear you, the wandering souls of the people I've wronged in my life, ask. Well, they're genetic. There's a news report in the first episode that explains that the hardware you buy to play the game will scan you before it lets you play the game, and will only let you play if it detects that you have a sense. What the fuck? Kids already bully each other for having the default skin in Fortnite, and now they're going to be committing video game hate crimes and practicing eugenics. It's this, combined with the fact that the game's on hardcore Iron Man, that makes me wonder who would ever play this game. Like, imagine you're a Japanese salaryman. Every day at work, your boss bullies you. After working your 60-hour shift, you come back to an empty home because last week, an ugly bastard stole your wife. So you drop a couple of grand on the latest gaming hardware so you can escape from your miserable life for just a couple of hours. You just barely scrape past the genetic analysis and get given some meager ability. You leave the tutorial town after about 30 minutes, finally ready to start playing the game, only to be immediately obliterated by 5 Chad genetic ubermensch 12-year-olds who scream racial slurs at you and start doing Fortnite dances over your body.
Green, what's your problem, Green? What is your problem?
This game would skyrocket the suicide rate, like tenfold. Anyway, back on track. So when he's not fighting bad CGI dragons, they're hanging out in this cave that looks kinda like the secret bases from Gen 3 Pokemon games. Man, back when I was hanging out in these bad boys, everything was alright in the world. What horrible twist of fate led me to this moment? Talking about Isekai on YouTube. Anyway, they hang out in this secret base, and at one point, one of the members says they should go tackle a quest that nobody else has been able to beat up until that point. And I think at some point in this conversation, somebody says, "I hope we'll always be together," which is what we, in the business of being petty nitpickers, call foreshadowing. So yeah, they go on this quest, and yeah, it's a success. Roll credits. This ending song really sounds like the hold music for a company that will make you wait for an hour and a half before they talk to you, and then won't even help you. Did I fool you? Of course it goes tits up. Asahi ends up getting sniped by what looks like pasta sauce.
Ragu. It brings out the Italian in you.
Now, At this time, this death doesn't really have much impact because they've established so far there's not really many consequences for this. Like, she won't be able to log in again, but that's about it. However, in this one specific instance, Asahi actually does die in the real world because her heart stops, from what I can only assume is a broken heart, because she can't play the game anymore.
Medically, she's completely healthy. For reasons we can't explain, we are losing her.
So a few members of blame Haruto for this because he was responsible for the big whoopsie. Mostly Takanori, because he's an arsehole even at 12 years old. And Subaru bitterly splits apart with all its members going their separate ways. The company that runs the game actually shuts down the game as well. Because who would willingly play a game where if you die in the game, you die in real life? After this, we cut to a depressed Haruto 6 years later. We know he's depressed because he's in a dark room and his room is scattered with magazines. And also because we're directly told that he's depressed. They then proceed to never explore this topic with any depth whatsoever. I'm pretty sure this plot point solely exists so at the end of the show they can go, "Wow, we cured your clinical depression with the power of friendship," which I wouldn't exactly call a nuanced exploration of mental health. Anyway, in this new present, the company that made Union has re-released the game under a new title, Reunion. See what they did there? And this is where I'm putting my foot down regarding realism in this show. Why would anybody want to play a 6-year-old game? I don't think anybody would campaign for this or continually barrage the developers over and over again until they release the game exactly the same as it was 6 years ago. It's just unbelievable.
Have you ever thought about adding servers for previous expansions as they were then?
No. And by the way, you don't want to do that either. You think you do, but you don't.
So because of Haruto's legendary status in the old game, some people that will never be seen again after episode 1 are begging him to come into the game to help them with a quest that they can't complete. And at the end of this quest we discover Asahi is still in the game! Ooh, spooky! So after speaking with her, we find out that she doesn't remember the past 6 years in which she was supposed to be dead, and I guess therefore this means she still has the brain of a 12-year-old. Asahi says she wants to get all the members of back together.
Adventure has a new look. Discover more in the all-new Subaru Forester Wilderness. Love, it's what makes Subaru.
Following this, we just get the same 2 recycled plot points over and over again. The first one being, a guy turns up, they want to kidnap Asahi because of her overpowered sense, and then they get beaten up. The second is just boring playground drama between all the former members as they slowly get reintroduced to the show. This second plot point really exemplifies one of the biggest problems with this show. The characters are just so underdeveloped. First of all, you don't get to spend any time with any of the other characters before the time skip. Any sort of characterization or relationship building between characters has to sort of get crammed into the first half of the first episode so they can speed ahead with the rest of the show. And even though they do this, they still expect you to care about meeting these characters again, even though you really know nothing about them whatsoever. Imagine if the Subodi Archipelago arc was the first thing to happen in the entirety of One Piece. You would not be excited to see the crew get back together again because you haven't seen them go through anything together or share any good or bad times whatsoever. Although I'd still probably look forward to seeing Nico Robin again. When you actually get to meet some of these characters, these ex-members of Subaru, they don't seem to have mentally developed at all in 6 years. They all seem to have the same elementary schooler mindset from when they were 12. The main source of drama between the former party members usually boils down to who had a crush on who when they were 12. Like the first bit of major drama we have is Satsuki had a crush on Haruto when they were 12, and therefore she treats Asahi meanly because despite not having spoke to him in 6 years, she still has a crush on him. The same thing happens again when we reintroduce Takanori into the story. Takanori had a crush on Asahi when they were 12, but ooh, so did Haruto. So they have a literal dust-up over who can still date the mentally 12-year-old girl. In front of her grave in real life. Mwah, so tasteful.
Love you.
Alright,
Uh-oh, Richard. Oh, wow.
Hey, can I kill you?
Like, I'm not saying don't have this petty interpersonal stuff in there. You can make anything interesting, really. Kyoka is an entire anime about solving the most mundane mysteries possible, and they still manage to make that interesting by putting a heavier focus on the characters and their developing relationships. Include this stuff if you want to explore it, but I'm just saying, if you're going to include this as part of your story, don't underdevelop your characters. Developing your characters should be the most important thing if you want to pull this off successfully. You can especially tell Haruto hasn't developed at all in 6 years, because when he's not in the game, he looks like his mum still dresses him. Zero drip. Look, he has multiple copies of the same shirt with a lowercase h on it in different colours. He has negative drip. He is a void of drip. He absorbs all drip within a 10-foot radius of him and destroys it. I'm about to buy this guy's entire wardrobe. I mean, there's not really much in the way of standout character design in the rest of this show, except for one outfit in particular. But at least nobody's as bad as Haruto. A lot of these design flaws extend to the environments they're in as well. Like, a lot of the environments are quite boring to look at. They're either big halls with copy-pasted walls or sparse landscapes. Like, who designed these locations? It definitely wasn't the players of the game. If it was the players of the game, everywhere would be littered with anthropomorphic wolf statues with chiseled abs. Just log into Second Life for more than 3 seconds and you'll know. The average person will go to great lengths to enact their perversion. Or you could just rewatch this YouTube video and look at the great lengths I've gone to enact my perversion. You think I needed to use a One Piece reference? Haha, you fool! I just needed to find an excuse to use booby clips. I've been told YouTube videos are artistic expression, and I need to express myself artistically by putting big mummy milkers on the screen. Anyway, after all these things I've discussed so far, I was almost ready to write off the show after 6 episodes, but then, surprisingly, it starts getting pretty good. They start letting the characters interact a little bit outside of the playground drama stuff, and they start setting up that one of the old party members might actually be a secret bad guy. Albeit through some pretty crudely shoehorned in flashback scenes, but it's something, there's movement. And he eventually turns up, and he is a secret bad guy! And he stabs Haruto through the heart, and it's hype as shit! And then, another bombshell! It turns out that senses can be used outside of the game, and that the game itself is set up to train people's senses. Now I was getting pretty sleepy with the show at this point, but all this stuff happens in like a really short time frame, and my hype meter just starts going off the charts. And it builds all this momentum, it sets up all these moving parts. But then the betrayal thing never happened. And it wasn't even Clive anyway. And the next episode is just more playground relationship drama. And then that drama leads to an attempted kidnapping of Asahi. And the attempted kidnappers get their asses handed to them. It feels like they started building a really nice Lego set, and then they left the room to get a drink or something, and their little brother came in and started smashing it up. And this latest relationship drama isn't particularly compelling at all. It's like Disney Channel level relationship drama. This latest girl we're introduced to, well, she had a crush on Takanori 6 years ago, and then she sees him dancing with another girl at the MMORPG prom, which yes, exists, and she gets so upset that she runs away and becomes evil. She gets a really cool new design though while she's evil, which I really like, for reasons I cannot disclose at this time. Even her voice becomes more evil. The only one not involved in any of this relationship drama stuff is Clive. Now I understand why the only thing under your personality section of the wiki is Chad. After this latest round of the same repeated plot points, I just kind of stopped caring. I did finish it, and I always endeavour to try and finish every anime I watch, but there's not much more to say that I haven't already covered. If I was an underpaid, overworked anime professional, here's what I do to fix some of the problems in this show. Number 1, slow down the pace a bit. It feels like this show is speeding through boring content. Before the time skip, have your characters go on some quests and maybe explore some interesting locations in the game. You know, like they would do if they were playing an MMORPG. Use this time to establish your setting and establish the characters. Instead of doing it retroactively with flashbacks, you could set up that red herring of Clive being a secret bad guy here. So then every time your audience sees Clive from then on, they'll think, ooh, is this going to be the time he betrays them? And the betrayal payoff will be so much sweeter when it actually happens. I know that they know they should have done this, because they shoehorn in a montage to try and characterize them a little bit, but it's just still images and music. It's less characterization and more high school PowerPoint presentation. Number 2, don't start the series when they're elementary schoolers. Make them late teens at the very least, and then make the time skip like 1 or 2 years, so the drama doesn't come across as laughably petty as it does. If the characters are in the teens, then petty relationship stuff starts making more sense, because teens have 9th degree horny brain. Digging up a girl's grave and then having a fight with your best friend in front of it over who can date a girl changes from being laughably weird to pretty relatable. Number 3, don't have such a small budget, losers.
Make more money, darling.
Hopefully they can fix some of these issues in a season 2. Uh-oh, stinky. So in conclusion, this show suck on my balls. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, give it a like. If this video gets 100 likes, I will literally move to Japan. 1,000 likes and I'll learn the Chica dance. 10,000 likes and I'll post a picture of my feet on Twitter. I hear people are into that. My original plan for this channel was to go through every single Isekai one by one and review them all, but I realised that would be quite a short-lived series because I'd probably be committed under the Mental Health Act pretty quickly if I did that. I also quite like the idea of experiencing things at random. I do struggle with having quite crippling choice anxiety anytime I go to watch something, so taking the choice out of my hands is actually pretty appealing. There's also a good chance that you find a diamond in the rough or something that nobody really talks about that's actually terrific. I was born too late to explore Earth, born too early to explore the galaxy, but born just in time to explore the bottom of the barrel. Also, if it's something that most people haven't talked about, it's a fertile ground for jokes that haven't been made before. I don't think every video will be a randomly selected review. I'll probably post a lot of smaller, sillier videos as well. This video took a surprisingly long time to make. I've never done any video editing or voice recording before. And yeah, it was a lot more difficult than it looks. But it was still pretty fun to do and I learned a lot. So expect more on the horizon. First and foremost, I want this channel to be a place where I can just clown around for 10 or 20 minutes and make really lowbrow jokes. So if I made you exhale slightly more vigorously than normal, please consider subscribing and sticking around, because I'll be pumping out these lowest common denominator jokes. If my voice sounds a bit flat or monotonous to you, it's just because I live in the north of England and I have nothing to smile about in my life. Also, if the mic quality is a bit sus, I use a 80-2020 USB and it sounds a bit shit and picks up everything, like your mum.